40-year-old actor Sidharth Shukla's death has India in shock and disbelief. A rising star in the world of television and cinema, Sidharth dominated social media after he won the reality show Bigg Boss. Sidharth's workout videos garnered millions of views. His co-stars described him as a fitness enthusiast who was very particular about his diet and workouts. So what led to a young, fit actor dying of a tragic heart attack?
A reality TV star, a young heartthrob, an action hero. 40-year-old Sidharth Shukla is no more. The actor had gone for a run around his apartment complex at 10 p.m. on Wednesday night. He had dinner but wasn't feeling too well. Between 3 and 3:30 a.m. on Thursday morning, Sidharth Shukla complained of uneasiness. Sources say he informed his mother Rita immediately about his condition, who lives in a separate flat in the same society. When Sidharth's mother arrived at his flat, he told her about pain and discomfort in his chest. His mother then gave Sidharth some water and asked him to go to sleep. However, in the morning, when his mother tried waking him up, he did not respond. This is when Sidharth's mother called his sister, who later dialed their family doctor. After early examination, the doctor declared Sidharth dead and asked the family to take him to a hospital. At around 9:40 a.m. on Thursday morning, an unconscious Sidharth was brought to Mumbai's Cooper Hospital by his sister, brother-in-law, cousin and 3 other friends, including Shehnaz Gill. At 10:15, doctors at Cooper Hospital declared the young actor dead. Police are now investigating whether Sidharth was on any medication and if he took any medicines before sleeping. Mumbai police sources say that foul play has been ruled out and that there were no external injury marks on his body. Sidharth's family too has not raised any doubts about the actor's death. But fans are wondering how an actor known for his rigorous fitness regime, regular gym outings and exercise routine has gone so soon. Sources say that Sidharth would work out for 3 hours every day and that doctors had advised him to go easy with his exercise routine.
बहुत अच्छा दोस्त मैंने खोया, बहुत फिट था फिजिकली और मेंटली भी, बहुत अच्छा इंसान, बहुत अच्छा कलाकार आज देश ने खोया.
Many in Tinseltown point to the pressures of looking good for young stars, which often involve showcasing chiseled bodies and six-pack abs.
आजकल जो ड्रग्स का या वेट लूज कर सिक्स पैक करना ओवरनाइट स्टेरॉइड्स का यूज होता, ये सब लोगों को एजुकेट करना पड़ेगा. पहले अगर इसके साइड इफेक्ट्स होते हैं कि तुम कर रहे होगे लॉन्ग रन में तुम्हारे को इसका बहुत भारी वो करना पड़ेगा.
His social media post suggests that Shukla was an intensely thoughtful man. His tweet from February 24 this year says that life is too short to worry about what others say or think about. You just enjoy life, have fun, and give them something to talk about. On 23rd July, he tweeted again to say, "Make such a big name for yourself that people conspire to defeat you." Sidharth had a full life ahead of him, a life that has been tragically and suddenly cut short. With Vidya and Saurabh Vaktania in Mumbai, Bureau Report, India Today.
Pankaj Upadhyay joins us from the Cooper Hospital in Mumbai. Efforts being made to ensure that thorough post-mortem is conducted. The police also very careful this after what happened in the Sushant Singh Rajput case. We're told at this moment the post-mortem report isn't on, given that the death happened yesterday late night. Isn't it taking a long time? Could you explain the delay?
Rahul, what we are learning is that the body is going to be handed over to the family members tomorrow. This after the insistence of the family members who said that they have certain rituals to perform that can be performed only in the daytime. and hence the police has also advised that considering the rush of the crowd that is already being seen outside his house, perhaps it would be more advisable to hand over the body tomorrow. So at around 10 or 11 a.m. tomorrow, that is the time when the family members are going to come over to the Cooper Hospital, and that's when the body is going to be handed over to the family members. Tomorrow is the time when we are expecting that the post-mortem report is going to be out, that perhaps is going to throw much light in the real cause of the death. Even though the family members, Rahul, say that they do not suspect any foul play, and the Mumbai police, after consultations with the Cooper Hospital doctors who had examined the body first, have said that they also do not suspect any foul play. No external injury marks have been found yet. The findings of the details of the doctor's certificate and the post-mortem report is going to be very interesting, because that is going to give, one, the finality to the family members, and also to the Mumbai police whether they need to carry ahead the investigation or not. But the Mumbai police, interestingly here, have said that even after the body is handed over to the family members, if at a later point of time the family members or some other people raise any doubt, then perhaps they will be ready to question the close family circuit and other members as well.
Okay.
So the statement of the family members with regards to whether he was under medication, that is also going to be very crucial. But tomorrow is the time when the body is going to be handed over to the family members and the post-mortem report will be out.
Thanks, Pankaj. For perspective on the life and times of Sidharth Shukla, this young acting superstar considered by some as the Salman Khan of Indian television, we're joined on this broadcast by Rahul Pramod Mahajan. He's a friend of Sidharth, his gym partner and a co-participant at the Big Boss's house. Shifali Bagga joins us, a former television journalist, one of the 13 housemates of Sidharth in the Big Boss. We have with us on this broadcast Taiseen Poonawala, who also appeared as a contestant with Sidharth, and he says that they've stayed in touch since. And for perspective on the medical aspects of this young, well-built, very well-chiseled workout guy who works out 3 hours every day and yet ends up with a heart attack, we've got Vishakha Shivdasani. She's a medical doctor, award-winning nutritionist, focuses on lifestyle diseases and disorders and such conditions. So I want to go across first to Rahul Mahajan. As somebody who saw Sidharth closely, you say that you're a gym partner of Sidharth. Tell us a little bit about those who don't know Sidharth as well, the kind of person he was, the kind of stardom he achieved, and why we're seeing the kind of outpouring that we are on social media, on WhatsApp. People just can't believe that Sidharth Shukla is gone. Rahul.
I know the most lively person is not alive right now. It's very, very like he was most alive, spiritually grown, like amazing person to be with, It's really shocking to like even think. I still can't believe because I have not seen the body, So I wanted to see body. I went to Cooper, but it was not, we couldn't see the body, Just to sink in that actually that has happened, It's very difficult. He was a great person. And I want to correct one thing. He was working out for 3 hours in gym, but he was not doing non-stop workout. He was not over-exerting himself. If there's a workout for 1 hour, he will do it slowly. He'll take 3 hours. Like if he has to pick up 60 kgs, he will pick up 60, not 30 kg, but he'll take 15 minutes break in between. So he was not over-exerting. And what doctor said about it, he had some leg issue. Doctor said, go slow about that. So it was not something he was doing over-exertion on his body. And he was like a spiritually very enlightened person. That's how we met and we talked and we became friends in real life, not on real life, We never met on television or anything. So he was very nice and we used to discuss about life, and he used to believe in Brahma Kumarika lifestyle, how world will end, and we used to discuss about life and beginning. And he was not a stressful person. He didn't have a stress about like reaching some goal. Of course, he used to idolize Shah Rukh Khan. He wanted to become Shah Rukh Khan who comes from zero and becomes hero. Definitely he had that, but he was not under tension of, he was introvert. So I can't tell from outside as a friend, he was under some stress. Nobody can tell that, but he was in generally happy and very enlightened person,
Shifali, you knew Sidharth Shukla from your time inside the house of the Big Boss. Tell us about your reminiscence, what kind of a person he was, what you remember about this young man.
Like just Rahul Mahajan just said that whenever he used to work out, he always used to take, quite big breaks when he used to work out. Even if he's working out for 3 hours, So in those 3 hours, he only, I think, worked out for 45 minutes, because he used to go, he used to pull on weights, and then he used to come back, sit, relax, drink water, talk to people, and then go back to, whatever exercise he's doing. But it is completely a shock that somebody who was so fit, and at this age he is not between us. And when I in the morning I was uploading a video on Instagram, I saw this news, and I couldn't believe that when somebody uh, commented on my post that Sidharth Shukla is no more. I took some time to digest it, and I still can't digest that he was so fit. He was physically strong as well as he was emotionally and mentally also very, very strong. बहुत ही समझदार था वो. But I don't know how this happened, and we are still awaiting the exact reason what actually happened, and why, what was the reason behind this heart attack. Was he into some kind of stress or something? But the person I knew was so fun loving. Sidharth Shukla was actually very fun loving. I remember when we were doing tasks inside Big Boss house, and he was unwell, he was suffering from food poisoning at the time. He went out and then again came back, but still again, even after he was not well, he was not keeping well, then also he was so much active in all the tasks, and he was so passionate about the show, about winning, and he never thought, gave it a second thought about anything, be it his health as well. And he even if he was not physically involved in the task, he was there in the task mentally though.
Okay, Tehseen Poonawalla.
So I have seen him being very, very passionate about his work and being very caring at the same time. I don't know why, why he had to leave.
Tehseen Poonawalla, tell us about your time with Sidharth, what you remember of this young man and the kind of joie de vivre we carried around him.
Sidharth was the second contestant I met when I entered the Big Boss house. And the first thing Sidharth said to me is he watches me on news channels and his mother watches me a lot. Subsequently, I did meet his mother. And the first thing I told Sidharth is he's a huge star outside. And Sidharth and I bonded a lot. Rahul, most often when you have people who are from the television industry or the glamour industry, they are not very well versed with the nuances of what's happening in current affairs or political affairs. But Sidharth was very well read. Sidharth's father, I think, worked in the RBI, was very passionate about that institution. And we would discuss a lot of political and current affairs at that time when I was in the house, to an extent when Big Boss once called the two of us and warned us that we're not allowed to discuss political affairs or current affairs in the house. There is something that I want to make, and I want to take this opportunity to tell your viewers. Look, one can be extremely fit, live an extremely healthy life, and yet have a heart attack. The most important cause for a heart attack is actually genes. One cannot ignore genes, cholesterol or blood pressure. So I'm taking this opportunity at the demise of a friend of mine who I've flown down from Delhi to Pune. I'm going to Mumbai tomorrow for the funeral, to tell all your viewers, please get regular heart scans done and regular checkup done. You could have calcium building up at your heart, on your heart, and things like that. You have an expert. So it's not necessary that if you're a fit person, you may not get a cardiac arrest or a heart attack. So please be extremely careful and get regular checkups.
Speaking of which,
one more.
I want to introduce now one of India's top cardiologists, Dr. Ashok Seth joins us on this broadcast. And before I go across to him and to Dr. Vishaka, I just want to focus for a moment on the health aspects of what we're seeing, because you could have washboard abs, bulging biceps, but does that really mean you're fit? Doctors say there is a direct link between mental well-being and physical health, and neglecting either can lead to heart complications at young age.
Sidharth Shukla, a successful actor and a reality TV star gone too soon. Sidharth's demise has once again put the focus on mental health.
In our country, we have people coming to us with heart attacks at a much younger age, and it's estimated that in India, the Indians have about, compared to the Western counterparts, getting heart attacks about 10 years earlier. And the major reason, I think, is the stress and our genetic predisposition, along with the various lipid abnormalities, which are not uncommon in our country.
Experts suggest there is a direct link between mental and physical health. Neglecting either of them can lead to heart complications that turn fatal.
900 लोग डेली इंडिया में 40 साल के नीचे इनका मौत होता है, हर दिन भारतवर्ष में मौत होता है। सो ये फिगर बहुत ज़्यादा है और ये प्रीमेच्योर हार्ट डिजीज कहते हैं और इसके कई कारण पहलू होते हैं।
Busy modern-day lives have made stress a common element.
Lifestyle changes are a major cause. Our abnormal diet, lack of exercise, and major factor is stress. And such stress is coming in different manner. And it may be professional stress, it may be family stress. So what I would suggest is that young people need to take care of their lifestyle. They also need to decrease their stress level.
Doctors say they now see a high rate of deaths among the middle-aged due to sudden and inexplicable cardiac arrest.
Probably हमारा देश यंग हार्ट अटैक में सबसे ऊपर है। हमारे देश में जिनको हार्ट अटैक होता है उनको 10 साल पहले वेस्टर्न काउंटर पार्ट के हार्ट अटैक होता है, उनको ज़्यादा मेजर हार्ट अटैक होते हैं और उनको हार्ट अटैक में लाइफ का लॉस होने के चांसेस ज़्यादा होते हैं।
The sudden deaths of stars like Sidharth Shukla and Sushant Singh Rajput remind us the importance of ensuring not just our own mental well-being, but also of those around us. Bureau Report, India Today.
When someone so young and at least on the outside so fit has a heart attack at the age of 40, Ashok said, you really wonder what's going on, because the one thing that I've been thinking and wondering about since the story broke is that here's a man who works out for 3 hours every single day and from the outside at least looks to be exceedingly fit, and yet he collapses at night and has a heart attack. Why do you think this could have happened, and what's your advice to those who are watching you at this time and are very worried about what happened to Sidharth and wanting to ensure it doesn't happen to them?
So Rahul, yes, it is very sad, very unfortunate, this news about his passing away. Young, very handsome and very competent 40-year-old. But then again, we must also remember, and I'm not addressing this for Sidharth, but for everyone in the country, that this is a reminder how susceptible and how vulnerable from heart disease we are in this country. If I was to just comment that fact that India is the world's capital of heart attacks, 50% of deaths from heart attacks across the world happen from India. And unfortunately, Indians are genetically predisposed to it. We are a loaded gun in many ways. We are 3 times more susceptible to having heart attacks compared to Europeans.
Why is that?
6 times more than Chinese.
Sorry, why is that? Can you
20
explain?
times more than Japanese.
Can you explain why that's the case?
This is a genetic predisposition which has happened to us over centuries, as they say. They're related to the thrifty gene that we as Indians, and by the way, Indians for 3 generations who've lived in Singapore or in West Indies, having the same amount of risk factors would actually, and having changed their lifestyle totally to the local norms, would still be at a high predisposition to having heart attacks. One of the other important aspects is, remember that physical fitness, which means muscles, bodybuilding, heavy exercising, does not necessarily correlate with heart health. And heart health is totally different. For example, you would be surprised and people would be surprised to learn that we talk about 90 and 80% blockages and dread those as the cause of heart attacks. Equally important are 50 and 40% blockages which can suddenly rupture, can develop a clot, and can result in a heart attack. And unfortunately, those are blockages which don't give us any symptoms whatsoever and don't appear in any test like an exercise test, but only appear on CT scans. So the matter is, there's also a third aspect, that severe exercise, extreme exercise on a 40% blockage can suddenly precipitate a heart attack. And unfortunately, 50% of the deaths which occur from a heart attack are sudden. Heart attack presents as a sudden death. So that's an unfortunate aspect. So in many ways, what we're saying is checkups, especially in those who have a strong family history of having heart disease or having parents having heart attacks and dying suddenly, those who are diabetic, those who are smokers or have tobacco should start their checkups at a very early age. In fact, we are recommending checkups as early as blood tests by the age of 20. Certainly in those who've got a strong family history of people dying, parents dying from heart attacks at an early age, have their CT scans by the age of 30 and 35, and try and diagnose it early so that lifestyle modification and drugs can actually prevent heart attacks even at the age of 40, 45, 50. So this is a constant reminder that nobody is vulnerable. And we must also remember that heart attack has numerous ways to present. Heart attack has numerous causes to present. And we must work at those causes. Just because we exercise vigorously, just because we build our body up, doesn't take away from the fact that we may be living on stress. We may all
you mentioned the word stress, Vishakha Shivdasani. That is indeed one of the big concerns. And I'm not just saying this in the case of Sidharth because frankly, with respect to his family, friends, we don't know enough. But the fact is, this young generation is hugely stressed, whether you're on Bollywood, whether you're on TV, whether you're in a corporate life, you know, especially with what's happened in the pandemic, the last 2 years has added to the stress, and that just brings out the problems associated with the kind of lives all of us lead.
Rahul, I can't hear you too clearly. I hope I'm audible.
We hear you fine. Please go on, Doctor.
Fantastic. Okay, so I believe you asked me about stress. Now, of course, not talking about Sidharth per se, because we don't know enough and we don't know about his life exactly. But, you know, I deal with a lot of people in his industry very closely. And I can tell you, they have fairly bad lifestyles and their stress levels are very, very high. And they resort very often to smoking and supplements and wrong supplementations because it's their way of alleviating stress and their way of dealing with it, which is incorrect. So, you know, stress levels will increase your cortisol levels, will increase your blood sugar, will reduce your immunity. And if you think then working out in a gym, and again, this is nothing to do with Sidharth at all, just generally speaking, you know, working out and building muscle, like Dr. Shet said, is going to nullify that effect. No, it's not. The best way to actually take care of stress is probably through meditation, not something that's going to make a physical difference. So most people don't like to, you know, invest time doing that. But I tell every single patient of mine in COVID, post-COVID, irrespective whether they're in the glamour industry, CEOs, you must spend 20 minutes a day just reducing that stress level. Sadly, there are very few medical, you know, blood tests that we can do to measure a stress level. By the time it's manifested in dyslipidemias or heart disease, it may be too late. So we believe in preventive medicine. Prevent that from happening. If you know your lifestyle is very stressful, deal with it. Don't wait for a problem to happen. So there are ways, even with supplements, there are ways that we can, you know, we can reduce your stress levels. But it has to be addressed. Sadly, it's so cosmetic in, you know, in our world, Bollywood or otherwise, that people are so just involved in looking at, do we have a six-pack? Or, you know, do we look a particular way? Is my skin color a certain, you know, they're taking glutathione injections. That people forget to do preventive health checkups, forget that smoking is going to make a difference, stress is going to make a difference to their health, but it all needs to be addressed. And in the attempt to gain a six-pack or to look a certain way, supplements are taken left, right, and center, misuse of supplements. Sometimes those supplements, Dr. Shet will also, I'm sure, agree with me, can actually even cause heart issues. Even in COVID, we've seen people who have taken vitamin D, something as simple as vitamin D, left, right, and center, and they've taken calcium. Now with people who have a high calcium scoring in their heart, and if you are going to be indiscriminately taking lots of calcium, lots of vitamin D, and you're going to get toxicity and you don't know about it, we know that high levels of calcium, very high levels of vitamin D can cause cardiac arrhythmias. They can cause cardiovascular disease. We know that smoking increases the risk of heart disease by 4 times. Dr. Shettushta just said we are probably, you know, we've got maximum chances of heart disease. But the fact is we are also the diabetic capital of the world. And that also contributes to the heart disease. So it has to be addressed. And in our country, I feel that preventive medicine is not something that we look at. We address a problem once it's happened. But why wait to escalate for something to happen? in his case, it's really sad that we couldn't do anything about it because it was the first and the last event. It was fatal, which typically we see in younger individuals because they don't have what we call a collateral circulation. So very often the collateral circulation in the heart is in 60s and 70s, and those are the people who can withstand a heart attack, and they're the ones who will have a second and a third one, and they get luckier. But in 40s,
I'm sorry,
more often
if
than
you
not,
were to leave the medical jargon aside, could you just explain what that means? Why is it that if you're 60 and 70, you have a second or a third heart attack, and when you're younger, that's not likely?
Okay, so you have what's called a collateral circulation, which means we've got 3 main blood vessels to the heart, and then we've got smaller blood vessels to supply the heart, right? And those smaller blood vessels will, if the major blood vessel is blocked, when you're in the 40s, you don't have the smaller blood vessels to supply blood to the heart. As a result, when you have a block, there is no blood supply, and that's it. It's a massive attack, and you go into a cardiac arrest. When you're older, you have these smaller blood vessels that have formed. So even if the major blood vessel is blocked, you still have the smaller blood vessels that can protect you. Dr. Sheth, would you agree with me?
Well, it's the chronicity of the blockage. If you have a blockage for a long period of time, a severe blockage for a long period of time, then collateral circulation develops, which protects you partially from major heart attacks. Elderlies have long-standing blockages which gradually get worse. But if an artery blocks up suddenly, which is what happens in younger individuals and smokers especially, then it is a massive heart attack. Then it is a cardiac arrest. And Rahul, may I also suggest one very important thing for public to understand? I have a number of young patients who have heart attacks. And by the way, for us, it's not a surprise to see young people having heart attacks because that's what we deal with every day, which is sad. But what is very important is they come to me saying, I've done everything right. I run, I jog, I exercise, I don't eat anything wrong. And then I say, but you smoke. Yeah, but I just only smoke 15 cigarettes a day. By the way, that smoking, tobacco, nullifies everything good that you can actually do. So smoking, family history, diabetes are 3 important aspects of heart disease and heart attack at an early age. Parents you can't change. Diabetes is something you inherit. Smoking is something which you cause to yourself and cause a heart attack. So that is the absolute important aspect of heart attacks.
And I'm glad that we're having this conversation because it's an important conversation to have.
Rahul, and one more point. Smokers develop clotting in their arteries, and they develop clotting on 30% blocks, 20% blocks, and that is why they end up having massive heart attacks because they just don't know they've got a 20% mild blockage, which wouldn't have otherwise caused any problem for years and years, but they caused it upon themselves either by extreme exercise or by smoking.
Sabyasachi Satpathy, as a friend of Sidharth, do you think that stress was something that he dealt with? Did you see that from close, or do you think stress levels are just inherent to anyone who's in the world of showbiz or anybody who's in any kind of a corporate life at the moment?
Rahul, we all try to portray a different character in front of the world because people look up to us, and Sidharth is a huge TV star and a star, so he was always smiling, giggling and everything. So yes, stress, because you don't show what you're going through. Sometimes it can be a personal reason, sometimes it can be a hint of a health issue or something or the other. Now what happens, we are always given a wrong advice that eat, drink, do whatever, just exercise, take a walk in the morning and have fresh air and this and that, and you become fitter and finer. I must tell you that all those advices don't work, like the doctors have said it here, that if you even smoke, like I had been a heavy smoker, but now I'm thinking like I have to cut down and I have to quit this because this is not going to work if I have to live. Or else like different friends had been leaving this world, I will be gone someday. So it is just a reminder with a star like Sidharth leaving this world that we have to be very cautious. Listen to the right advices. People will say a lot of things, but do we have to agree and work on that? So I think a stress of a different level can work out. And people say if you go to the gym and do like 4 or 5 hours of gymming and you're stress free, but no, having a 3 pegs evening doesn't make you stress free. So we have to work on it. And I don't know the cause of Sidharth's demise, but it's very saddening. And if it is heart attack, then what has gone wrong after the pill that he had taken in the night? He could not wake up in the morning. So these things are like bothering me, because as the doctors have mentioned, that 20% of blockage in the artery can actually have a massive heart attack. So what, did he have any blockage? Did he have any heart attack?
Rahul Mahajan, you know, stress, substance abuse, alcohol, tobacco, these are all factors. And I say this again, I'm not saying this about Sidharth at all, because we don't know enough at this moment. But these are factors that this young generation needs to be very, very mindful of, given the kind of high octane, high stress lives that we all lead.
Yes, I think after doctors, whatever doctors told me, I got more stressed now, I think I'll have a medical checkup. But apart from that, it's good I left smoking and drinking 2 years back. I feel good about it, because I consciously been drinking a few years back. It's more than 2 years now. So I feel, but there's one more thing about Sidharth that nobody knows. His father passed away with heart attack in 2004 or 2005. So he may not be that old. His father, it may not be genetic or parents' death. So his father had a heart attack. If I'm not wrong, I remember he telling me that about his dad, that his dad had a sudden heart attack and he passed away in 2004. So that time Sidharth must be much younger, 15, 16 years back. So father must be also in 50s or something like that. So that one point, I think nobody's mentioned that his father had a family history of heart attack.
And that's a big factor as well, Dr. Vishaka. The genes, the possibility of parents having dealt with cardiac issues, especially at relatively young ages, which potentially enhances the probability of somebody having to deal with cardiac issues themselves.
Absolutely it is. Which is why when you have a strong family history, you must get preventive health checks done regularly. Life goes by and we get so busy. Sometimes we forget to do it, but it has to be priority and we have to do. On an average, I would say once a year is good for someone without a family history. But if you're very stressed and if you have a strong family history, I would say even once in 6 months. But at least you can pick up a problem. I would go one step further and say that now, while this may not be true for everybody, because we know the gene component is very strong in some people, but I have seen this in my clinic and I tell all my patients that the genes load the bullet, but the trigger is pulled by your lifestyle. Diabetes is a lifestyle change. It's a comorbidity. You can't change the gene, but you can remove that comorbidity with your lifestyle. Smoking is part of your lifestyle. Stress is lifestyle. Bad sleep is lifestyle. That is in your control. So I don't want people to think that this is their destiny, that my father has died at 50, that is going to be my destiny. I don't think that's entirely correct. I think if you modify your lifestyle to a fair degree, you reduce your chance significantly. So you must do what you possibly can.
Sidharth Shukla started his career as a model, rose to become a supermodel, an internationally feted model. He dabbled then in daily soaps, became a household name, but it was really his stint on reality TV, especially shows like Big Boss and Khatron Ka Khiladi, that propelled him to stardom. Here's a look at the journey of Sidharth Shukla. A beautiful, successful life, tragically cut short. Rest in peace, Sidharth Shukla. I want to thank Rahul Mahajan for joining us, Shifali Bagga, Sabyasachi Satpathy, Taisin Poonawala, Ashok Seth and Dr. Vishaka Shivdasani for joining us. To Sidharth's friends and participants in the House of the Big Boss for sharing insights about his life, and to the doctors for really giving us a wake-up call. For everyone watching, the fact that you can't take your health for granted. Don't imagine that things are going well now. That's the way they're going to stay. You need to be very, very conscious and make the lifestyle changes, which may seem that they're slowing you down, but may ensure that you live longer than you would